So hi, good evening. All good? Chalo. So we completed Indus Valley Civilization in the last class, and we'll be starting with the Maurya Age architecture. So now understand. So when it comes to Maurya Age architecture, what all things we are going to see in this one, and this is a very important topic from the perspective of both the stages of the exam. So we will be starting with the Mauryan caves. Okay? The artifacts which we are going to see. So Mauryan caves, we'll talk about the Mauryan pottery, Mauryan and sculpture, and then stupa is a one very important thing that we are going to look at here. So as the Mauryan pillars. So these 5 artifacts we are going to study. Most important, in my opinion, is the stupa, and a question already has been asked in the mains examination. So it was in 2016 when there was a question on the stupa in the mains examination. What happened? Chalo, it's all okay, but then flare up nahi hona chahiye class mein. So now understand. So Mauryan stupa already they have asked a question in the mains examination in 2016, and prelims mein it's a continuous process that Buddhism se questions aate hain, and there isn't a paper I have seen in last 10 except 1 year, okay, that I have not seen any question from the Buddhism and Jainism. So questions are always asked from this particular section. So let's come to the very first part. We'll start with the Mauryan cave and then Mauryan pillar. But before starting this topic, there is a one such tradition that we need to talk about, Maurya period art. So you can write this title, Maurya period art. So before going ahead with this, I just need to talk about one tradition and one such movement which started in the, give me 1 minute. So which started in the later, at the end of the later Vedic age. So before talking about the stuff that we have written, just listen. Shraman tradition. So Shraman tradition, this was a movement which got initiated in the later end of the last or rear end of the later Vedic period. What was the Shraman tradition? The progressive section of the society, they initiated this movement, Shraman movement, and Shraman movement was about the practices of the Vedic society which were discriminatory in nature. Then, so for example, that Varna system, caste system, take care, then deteriorating position of the women and the backwards in the society, animal sacrifice. So these all practices which were not rational at that point of time. So progressive section of society started a movement against it, which is known as a Shraman movement or Shraman tradition. Then, so now it is said that it is this movement, Shraman movement, which gave rise to Buddhism and Jainism, okay? And so as to many other religious reform movement like Ajivika. So Buddhism, Jainism, Ajivika are considered to be the branches of this Shraman tradition. Now it has happened in the rear end of the later Vedic period. And what is the rear end? 7th century BCE, and then 6th century BCE, in which the emergence of the Buddhism, Jainism and the Ajivika is happening. So what is the correlation of this particular Shraman tradition with the Maurya period? So now understand that Mauryas happen to be the first rulers of India who patronized the Shraman tradition, then all the branches of the Shraman tradition. So as I mentioned, that Buddhism, Jainism and Ajivika are considered to be the branches of the Shraman tradition. They emerged from this particular movement itself. So Mauryas were the first people who patronized all the 3 branches of the Shramana. So there is a patronage towards the Ajivika also, there is a patronage towards the Jainism also, and so as the Buddhism. I'll give you example. So example is that Chandragupta Maurya, then the very first person and the founder. So Chandragupta Maurya, he was the believer of the or practitioner of the Jainism. Then after Chandragupta Maurya, his son Bindusar. Bindusar was the follower of Ajivika. So as Asoka, he was also the follower of Ajivika. But later on, it is Asoka who converted to Buddhism. So all the 3 branches had been patronized in this particular in this particular Maurya age. So they were the rulers who patronized the Shramana tradition even after the end of that particular age of the Vedic period. Okay? So mention little bit. Isme likho that first you write this title, and in this title first you write the meaning of this word Shramana. So meaning mein likho that it is derived from a Sanskrit word Shraman. It is derived from Sanskrit word Shraman, which means striving for enlightenment. Which means striving for enlightenment. Then striving for enlightenment. Then mention. So you write in the rear end of later Vedic period, in the rear end of later Vedic period, progressive section of the society. Progressive section of the society initiated a movement against the discriminatory practices of the Vedic society. For example, so write, mention Varna system, caste system, Varna system, caste system, complex Vedic rituals, dominance of Brahmins, dominance of priestly class likho, priestly class, deteriorating position of women and backwards, animal sacrifice, etc. Done. Then further right. In the 6th century BCE, Shraman tradition gave rise to some of the religious reform movements, like Buddhism, Jainism, and Ajivika. Then change paragraph and then you write. ठीक है? So paragraph change करके लिखो उसमें. Maurya rulers when came to power started patronizing all the three branches of Shramana. Then, so all the three branches of Shramana. So now, एक और लाइन ऐड करो उसमें. In this regard, they also took some architectural initiatives. They also took some architectural initiative. So this is the introductory part of this particular section. Now we will start with the Mauryan caves, then Mauryan pillars, and so on and so forth. So very first you write Mauryan caves. See, there is a one instruction which I want to give you. बुरा मत मानना, ठीक है? My classes does not goes like the other faculties, where in the middle of the course itself you can raise your hand. If you have a question, so you will be asking. I'll be giving you a particular time. You can ask the question over there, or after the class you can ask the question. But बीच में interruption मेरे को बिल्कुल पसंद नहीं है. तो make a note of it that I would not reply to it. And in fact, this is a very easy question that you have asked. I expect that after completing 1 year, you yourself can explore this part. So let me complete the course in a rhythmic way, okay? So in a rhythmic way, and I don't want to indulge in those very simplistic explanation which you can do at yourself. अब art and architecture का difference बैठाने बैठूं तो मुझे time लगेगा, ठीक है? Time इसमें में नहीं लगेगा कि explanation difficult है. Time इसमें लगेगा कि हम time kill करेंगे बेकार के questions पे. तो तुम्हारा question मैं बेकार नहीं बोल रहा हूँ, but then you have to be very understanding in this regard. So I am different from the other faculties. And so what they have been doing in the classes, that's a different case. But this is my request to you, that you will not be interrupting any point of time in the middle when I am in the course. But I'll give you opportune time to ask the question. Okay? So wherever you will have a difficulty, you note it down, and then I'll give you opportune time to where you can ask the questions. Okay? Chalo. So let's move to the Mauryan caves. Now, so when it comes to the Mauryan caves, so perhaps Mauryan caves are, they are the first man-made caves in India. Then we have n number of the examples of the natural caves from India. So when you start studying those NCRTs, which are basic NCRTs, so you come across the examples of the Bhimbhetka, then the caves which are there in the Mirzapur, Narsinghgarh cave, Jogimara cave. So these all are the natural caves, and which were discovered by some of the archaeologists in 1937, 1938. But then when it comes to man-made caves, so perhaps this is the first example. And here we are using the word perhaps. Then, so it is just similar to the one that we have used over there in the Maurya age. Perhaps का मतलब कि अभी तक इससे पुराना तो नहीं मिला है हमें, ठीक है? That this is the oldest and this is considered to be the first. अगर कुछ नया मिल जाए, तो it will be updated in the books. So now let's understand that what type of the architecture was this. So the type of architecture, that Mauryan caves were quite beautiful also. Though they are the first man-made cave, but as per the context of the time, the structure was simplistic but then artistic also. So it had in the front, it had a semicircular facade. Then, so it had a semicircular facade in this shape only, and moreover, that there is a one entrance, but this semicircular facade, it was decorated also. So for example, that on this particular part, there was a jalidar panel. I'm using the Hindi word so that you can understand. Reticular panel, Hindi में क्या बोलते हो? Jalidar panel. And in this jalidar panel or reticular panel, they created the images of the elephant also, okay? And beautiful elephants. It's not like that कि देखने में जो अच्छा न लगे. So they were aesthetic also. And then some sort of other designing is there from these all sides. So this is the semicircular facade which was created in the front. Then when we look inside the cave, so inside the caves, chambers were there, and these chambers were quite polished. Then, so they were quite polished, and the alignment of the cave was also quite good. The question rises that what was the purpose of this cave? That why Maurya rulers started to create these caves? So the reason is that these caves of the Maurya age, they were meant for habitation of the Ajivika monks. So basically, these caves were resting places for the Ajivika monks. Resting places for the Ajivika monks. Now some of you might be bewildered that what does Ajivika means. वो बाद में पढ़ेंगे भी, ठीक है? There is a topic in philosophy where I'll be explaining you Ajivika. So it is just like a Buddhism and Jainism, it was also a reform movement. But then Ajivika did not survive in India. Before the onset of the medieval period itself, its survival was on the verge of extinction, and then it did not survive. So this was an theology, okay? Meaning that every religion starts with a theology, and slowly it develops into a full-fledged religion. So it only remained a theology, which was in practice till the 1100s, but then after, there were no more practitioners of the Ajivika. So that's what we were saying, that son of the Chandragupta Maurya, his son was Bindusar. Bindusar was the follower of Ajivika, and so as his son Asoka was also the follower of Ajivika. And when Asoka accepted Buddhism, so he accepted from his previous status of the Ajivika. So initially these caves were created for the Ajivika monks. It were resting places for them. And moreover, who created this majority of the caves? So there are two people who are responsible for the creation of these caves, and these two people are, one is Ashoka himself, and another is the grandson of Ashoka, whose name was Dasarath. Okay? So these were the people who were responsible for creation of it. Then we'll write the examples. Okay? So mention, you write. So mention, perhaps Mauryan caves were the first, Mauryan caves were the first man-made caves. Mauryan caves were the first man-made caves of Indian subcontinent. Man-made caves of Indian subcontinent. Then mention. उसके बाद लिखो. It had a semicircular facade at the entrance. What is the spelling of facade? F-A? Good. So C-A-D-E. Semicircular facade at the front. Which was decorated with reticular panel. I'll write the spelling, you can see the spelling. Okay? So which was decorated with reticular panel, sometimes reticular panel, sometimes with the sculptures of elephant. Sometimes with the sculptures of elephant. Sculptures of elephants. Then mention, from inside, the caves were highly polished. From inside, the caves were highly polished. Caves were highly polished. Then you mention after it, caves were highly polished. These caves were meant for shelter of Ajivika monk. These caves were meant for shelter of Ajivika monk. Then you write, majority of these caves were created by Maurya king Asoka, and his grandson Dasarath. ठीक है? So write examples, and examples से ही question कई बार आ चुके हैं. So just give me 1 minute. So example में very first you write Lomas Rishi cave. And earlier it used to be in the Gaya district, but now the name of the place has changed, district has changed. Those who are from Bihar, they might be knowing Jahanabad. ठीक है? So पहले ये गया में था, अब गया से जहानाबाद में चला गया. So it is in the district of Jahanabad in Bihar, and moreover this cave is situated in, ये भी लिख लेना साथ में, that it is situated in Barabar hills of this area. Barabar hills. Then after this, the second example you write Sudama cave. Sudama cave. This is also in the same district, Jahanabad, and the hill range is Nagarjuni hill. Hill range is Nagarjuni hill. So these two are in Bihar. Then let's come to the next example, which is from Odisha. So you write Dhauli cave of Odisha. Dhauli cave of Odisha. And one last thing that we need to write about it, just listen a little bit. At this particular place where this Dhauli cave is there, this is the place where Kalinga war was also fought. You must have read in your ancient classes. So the Kalinga war, in which so much of casualties happened. So at this place Dhauli, there is one half cut elephant sculpture. Okay? So this half cut elephant sculpture is very popular, and its size is also quite big. So this was the question, I think it was asked in 2013. And moreover, all these are done or created during the period of the Ashoka only. Okay? So mention, at the site of Dhauli, Dhauli, a half cut elephant sculpture, a half cut elephant sculpture was created during the tenure of Ashoka. Was created during the tenure of Ashoka. Then, so this is what is about this particular cave wala part. Now let's move to the pillar. So write Mauryan pillar, number 2. Mauryan pillar. So listen. So when it comes to Mauryan pillar, here there are comparisons also, and comparisons with the kingdoms where the pillars were constructed. So the kingdom in the reference is the Achaemenia, which right now exists in the Iran. Then, so it is in the area of the Iran. Now understand, so what all things are here. So when it comes to this particular Mauryan pillar, first of all, the average height of the Mauryan pillar was around 40 feet. Okay? So average is 40 feet. So maybe जो सबसे बड़ा होगा, tall होगा, that can go to 60 also. Okay? So average was the 40 feet. Moreover, Mauryan pillars were monolithic in nature. Have you heard the word monolithic? What does it mean? Single, created from the single stone. Then, so it was created from the single stone and created in a one go itself. Then another thing, that when we look at the different parts of the Mauryan pillar, so I'll create one such symbolic diagram. It may not be good, but then just for understanding. So generally what happens, that in the Mauryan pillars, okay, so there is, this is called as bell capital, and on the top of it, there might be a abacus in many such shapes, and then on the top of it is a animal, then so crowning animal. So this part we call as a shaft, then this we are calling as a bell capital, and this part is called as abacus, and the last part is called as crowning animal. So this is how generally the Mauryan pillars will look like. But इसमें कुछ differences भी हो सकते हैं, ठीक है? What are the differences? The name of the parts would be same, but this abacus part, some places it is rectangular, some places it is circular, so the shape is changing, ठीक है? And generally in majority of the Mauryan pillars, the bell capital was there, but some places it is also changing. Then, and at the top also, from place to place, the animal will also change. So in examples, we'll be writing that some of the prominent examples where the different animals are there at the top. So this is how it looked like. Now, since we said that we will be reading, or we basically talk about the Mauryan pillar in reference to the Achaemenian pillars also. So इस बात को समझो that one of the contemporary very popular kingdom to the Mauryas was Achaemenia in Iran, today's Iran. Then, and moreover, on one hand in India, Mauryans were creating the pillar. On the other hand, in Achaemenia also, the pillars were created. But the difference between the two pillars, Mauryan pillar was monolithic in nature and Achaemenian pillars were not monolithic. They were created in pieces, okay, and they were joined together. So that is one difference. Number two difference, the craftsmanship of the Mauryan pillar was much higher. Okay? So the skill of the carver was much higher. More refined images were there in the Mauryan pillars, but not so refined images were there in the Achaemenian pillar. When it comes to the height of the Mauryan and Achaemenian, so Mauryan, as we mentioned, 40 feet average height tha, okay? Lekin when it comes to Achaemenia, so average height was 20 to 25 feet. So आधे के लगभग आसपास. Then next thing, that Mauryan pillars were always erected in the open. So they were not a supportive structure of the buildings then, but they were erected in the open ground. And on the other hand, Achaemenian pillars were always inside the buildings. So these are the basic differences. Then we'll talk about the purpose of the pillars and examples. So mention little bit that one of the unique construction of Mauryan period, was pillars, They were pillars, they were monolithic in nature, and the average height was around 40 feet. Then the parts of the Mauryan pillar are namely, likho, shaft, bell capital, abacus, and a crowning animal. Paragraph change, and then you mention. Right. At this point of time, pillars were also constructed. In the Achaemenian Empire of Iran. You can see the spelling. Achaemenian Empire of Iran. ठीक है? ईरान. So अब एक काम करो, एक चार्ट बना लो, ठीक है? One side you write Mauryan pillar and other side Achaemenian pillar. That will be easier to understand. So write this side Mauryan pillar and the other side Achaemenian pillar. So already we have mentioned, अब differences लिख लो. So you write. So first place you mention monolith pillar. ठीक है? Achaemenian right? Created in pieces and joined in the last stage, in the final stage. created in pieces and joined in the final stage. Number 2, average height 40 feet, and here you write average height 20 to 25 feet. Then mention very high carver skill. Not very high, just give me 1 minute. I'll just change this wording. Very fine carver skill depicted on pillar. Depicted on pillar. And inferior carver skill. Inferior carver skill. Then mention highly polished, and the only similarity of the Ecumenian pillar that they were also highly polished. Okay? So both of them were highly polished. And number 5 you write, so always erected in open space. Always erected in open space. And this side you write Ecumenian pillars. 1 minute. Ecumenian pillars where the part of their buildings. Done. So this is what is about this difference between the two areas, Iran and India. So now, after Iran and India, now let's come to the purpose of the pillar. पहले एक बार discussion करते हैं, and then we'll go into the examples. Okay? So the purpose of the pillar has 2 stages. So why 2 stages? One is before the Kalinga War and another is after the Kalinga War. So purpose is different before Kalinga War and it will change after Kalinga War. So now understand what is before Kalinga War. So before Kalinga War, the purpose of erecting the pillar was to serve the imperial ceremonies, commands and the orders. And the second purpose was to celebrate the victory or commemorate the victory. So why that erection of the pillar is happening? Okay? And moreover, why it is the medium of the celebration. Understand? So pillars, as we have noted down, that average height is 40 feet, which is good enough height. And some pillars can go to 60 also. So whenever any area, suppose that this area has been annexed by Ashoka, so then the subjects of this area, earlier you were the subject of King A, now you have come under Ashoka. So you have an instruction from the side of Ashoka. So this pillar is a symbol that there is some instruction to the people of that area. So they will be coming to that place. It is visible from far and they will get to know that how much amount of taxes they need to pay, what kind of behavior is expected in the Ashoka's regime. So purpose was this. I hope in Maurya period you must have read about it. That those instructions of the Ashoka miss most of the time, that he's disseminating through these pillars. And there were so many rock edicts and the pillars of the Ashoka. So this is the purpose. And it was a medium of celebrating the victory also, that people get to know that now they have come under the control of Ashoka. So that is the first thing. But then Kalinga War happened, and more than, it's not exaggeration, but more than 1 lakh people died in the Kalinga War. And it is said that there was this river at the site of the Dholi where the war was fought. What is the name of the river? Have you heard about it? Daya. So Daya River, so it is said that when Asoka, after the war was over, when Asoka moved to this particular site of the Dhauli, he saw that river was completely blood red in color. And he was amused that why it is blood red. His mind was not working, and then he must have asked a question to the people that why this river is red. And then they happened to say that river is red because of the massacre that you have performed, then that it is blood and nothing else. So that particular scene moved the Asoka, and then he was full of remorse and guilt, and then after he decided that he will not follow the policy of annexation, which is called as policy of Bheri Ghosh, and he decided that he will follow the policy of Dhamma Ghosh. Then, so what is Dhamma Ghosh? The doctrines of the ethical moral conduct. Then, and this is also called as the doctrine of the Buddhism. So after the Kalinga War, he has accepted Buddhism, and his purpose of erecting pillar has changed. So what is the new purpose after the Kalinga War? Propagation of Dhamma, okay, and celebrating the important life events of the Buddha. So those second phase mein, he started constructing the pillars, erecting the pillars at the places which were associated with the Buddha. Okay? So this is what is the change of the purpose after Kalinga War. I hope you're understanding. So likho, mention purpose of the Mauryan pillar. Purpose of the Mauryan pillar. ब्रिक साइज बताया तो था पिछली क्लास में, ठीक है, 4:2:1. अब सेंटीमीटर से थोड़ी नाप के बताऊंगा मैं. सो रेशियो, दैट रेशियो वाज इंपॉर्टेंट, ठीक है. नाउ मेंशन पर्पस ऑफ द पिलर. सो उसमें भी सबटाइटल लिखो. सबटाइटल वेरी फर्स्ट यू राइट बिफोर कलिंग वॉर. बिफोर कलिंग वॉर. बिफोर कलिंग वॉर. सो नंबर 1 इसमें लिखो टू commemorate the victory. The meaning of the word commemorate is celebrating the victory. But this is a word of the history, so you must write to commemorate the victory. And number 2, you write to serve imperial ceremonies and commands. To serve imperial ceremony and commands. Done? Then, second subtitle you write after Kalinga War. After Kalinga War. And in this, number 1 you write to propagate Dhamma. And brackets में लिखो what is Dhamma? Moral ethical code of conduct. Moral ethical code of conduct. And actually this moral ethical code of conduct is associated with which religion? Buddhism. Okay? So you can also write it as a or doctrine of Buddhism. Doctrine of Buddhism. Then number 2 you mentioned. So after Kalinga War, this is first one, to celebrate important life events of Buddha. To celebrate important life events of Buddha. Got it? Then, so now this is about the Mauryan pillars, that their purpose. अब examples पे आते हैं. So you write some examples, and the very first, give me 1 minute. So example number 1, you write Lauria Nandangarh pillar. और देखो इसे जो क्वेश्चंस आते हैं बेसिकली मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम 95% ऑफ द टाइम दे हैव आस्क्ड द क्राउनिंग एनिमल. सो यू नीड टू रिमेंबर द क्राउनिंग एनिमल. ठीक है. सो लौरिया नंदनगढ़ पिलर, एंड वेयर इज दिस प्लेस? एनीवन? हाँ, इट इज इन बिहार. ठीक है. सो इट इज इन बिहार. स्टेट याद रखो. एंड मोर ओवर द क्राउनिंग एनिमल यू मेंशन, crowning animal in this pillar is a lion. So crowning animal is a lion. So somebody correctly said that it is in the Paschimi Champaran, which is the border district of the UP. Okay. So now, just before, when you are moving from border district of UP to Betia, so on the way itself, this particular pillar is there. Now the second one you write Rampurva pillar. Rampurva pillar. This is also from Bihar, but right now this pillar is not in Bihar. Where it is? In Rashtrapati Bhavan. Okay? So it is kept in the Rashtrapati Bhavan. It is on both the sides of the entrance of the Rashtrapati Bhavan. So this pillar, its image, iconic image is that bull. Okay? So crowning animal is a bull. Then you write, so the most iconic one is the Sarnath pillar. And Sarnath pillar, Varanasi. ठीक है, close. Varanasi से कितना किलोमीटर है? 23, 13 to 20, I think. ठीक है. So it is closer to Varanasi in UP, and moreover, later on we'll further talk about the importance of the Sarnath pillar in some other episode, but we'll be discussing. ठीक है. No worries about the same. And now you write the last pillar, Sankisa pillar. Crowning animal, हाँ, Sarnath में, I hope all of you know, 4 back-to-back lions. ठीक है? So 4 back-to-back lions. तो एक के पीछे एक, from all the directions there is one lion, so 4 lions are there. And Sankisa pillar is from Farrukhabad area of the UP. UP only लिख सकते हो, ठीक है? But if you want specific thing, so it is in the Farrukhabad district of UP. And the crowning animal in Sankisa is an elephant. So is an elephant. So now listen one part, that when we talk about the Sarnath pillar, so there is something specific about the Sarnath pillar. What is specific? That this particular pillar, it indicates one of the very important event in the Buddhism, and that event is the Dharma Chakra Parivartan. Okay? We will be reading in the Buddhism that what is this Dharma Chakra Parivartan, but just understand for the time being, Buddha achieved Nirvana, okay? And after achieving the enlightenment, he gave his first sermon. उनकी पहली preaching, ठीक है? So his first sermon was delivered in the Sarnath, and this is symbolic of this pillar is the symbolic of the first sermon of the Buddha, or first preaching of the Buddha, which is called as the Dharma Chakra Parivartan. Another special part of it, that when you look at the Sarnath pillar, so I'll just show you, ठीक है? Because that is required. Give me 1 minute. So now, as you can see that this Sarnath pillar and 4 back, this is Lauria Nandangad, this one, okay? इसमें सिर्फ single lion है, and as you can see that this abacus part is a square. It is not a circle. But in Sarnath, it is circular. This is bell capital. And just give me 1 more minute. So this one, just look at this one. So this part, particularly from here, if I cut it from here, so from the top, what is this? This is the motto of the government of India. Okay? So this is the national emblem. Not motto, sorry, national emblem of government of India, and the motto which is written below it, Satyameva Jayate, okay? Which is taken from the Mundak Upanishad. So एक बार लिखो, सारनाथ पिलर के बारे में थोड़ा सा लिखो. Sarnath pillar highlights the importance of Buddha's first sermon, SERMON, first sermon, then which is called as which is called as Dharma Chakra Parivartan. You can see the spelling I'm writing on board. So which is called as Dharma Chakra Parivartan. Dharma Chakra Parivartan. Then mention after it, which is called as Dharma Chakra Parivartan, full stop. Mention the upper part along with the abacus, the upper part along with the abacus has been adopted as the national emblem, has been adopted as the national emblem of Government of India. National emblem of Government of India. Along with a motto, Satyamev Jayate, along with a motto Satyamev Jayate, taken from Mundak Upanishad. Taken from Mundak Upanishad. Done? So this is what is about the सारनाथ pillar. फिर वापस से भी दोबारा भी अभी बहुत सारे ओकेजन्स होंगे जहाँ पे हम we talk about the धर्म चक्र परिवर्तन. For the time being, this much is enough. So let's move to the next important part. So here I need your utmost attention. ठीक है? इसमें अगर जो serious होगे नहीं होगे तो फिर then the entire topic would be washed out. So it is one of the complicated topic, but then I have made it simple when you have the attention. So just pay heed to the instruction which I am giving regarding. एक मेरे को blank page दे दो, ठीक है? So this blank page, ठीक है? First we'll start with some writing, but then after the images that we are going to create. Stupa topic I'm starting. So this much part, near about 60 to 65% part, you keep for the bigger stupa image. But there would be many small images also. और यहाँ पे एक छोटा part रखना, like this much. I think 15 to 20% image, just in line with the stupa, so that some comparison we can draw. ठीक है? And there are other images also. So one place I create an image of the India also, the northern part and the eastern part of the India, for understanding few things. So if you want, you can create that image on the back side, but मेरे हिसाब से उसकी requirement नहीं है, क्योंकि मैं समझा दूंगा, समझ लोगे, that would be fine. So we are going to start with the concept of the stupa. ठीक है? So let's start, and first we'll have a discussion on the origin of the stupa. So एक बार लिखो stupa. So now, stupa, when it comes to this word stupa, it is a Sanskrit word. Later on it was used in the Pali language also. Pali was the main language of the Buddhism, but Sanskrit was also used in the Buddhism. So stupa is a Sanskrit word, and the meaning of this word stupa is heap of sand. Heap of sand. And there is another meaning which is called as a mound. Okay? So generally it is called as heap of sand or a mound. Now after it, so let's talk about the origin of the stupa. ध्यान से सुनना. The origin of stupa is not purely associated with the Buddhism. Okay? Buddhism is not the first religion to talk about the stupa. In fact, it is the Vedic Sanatan Dharma which mentions stupa. Okay? So you understand Vedic Sanatan Dharma? This is what is the old name of the Hinduism. This is how the Hinduism started. So how this tradition started? You have already read Vedic period. Okay? In Vedic period, early Vedic period and later Vedic period. Now you must have come across some of the names in the Vedic period, some of the rishis. Any rishis name you have heard in the Vedic period or you have studied in the Vedic period? Valmiki, Durvasa, ठीक है? Vasishtha, Yagyavalkya, ठीक है? And so now you are aware about these rishis. So now understand that it is said that these rishis, okay, so these rishis, they attained divine knowledge. Okay? So they attained divine knowledge, and how they attained divine knowledge? Through the process of the meditation. Okay? So through the process of the meditation. And what was this process of meditation? So understand that, as you know, that they were meditating in the open areas for many months. Okay? So for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months then, and it is possible that one can fast for a long number of the days. In fact, in modern Indian history itself, you would have read that Vasudev Balwant Phadke, his hunger strike for a very long period. Then Putti Sri Ramalu, his hunger strike for 52 days. And Jatin Baghadas, his hunger strike for 63 days. So they survived 60 days on a hunger strike, and rishis of those time, they were very strong people. So they can also meditate for a longer period. So they were meditating for the longer period in the open areas. Now, once the meditation is happening, now just understand. So once the meditation is happening, take care. So in this meditation, this is open area. They are meditating, and then over the period of the time, heap of sand would get collected over their body. Take care. So heap of sand was getting collected over their body. Finally, what happens? That after 3-4 months, they are done with their meditation. Okay? They have got the divine knowledge, and then after, they are coming out of this stupa formation. So this heap of sand was called as stupa. Now, when they move out of this particular stupa formation, so they have divine knowledge, they are sharing with the people, and then people pay their obeisance to these particular rishis. Now, the people consider that it is because of the stupa formation, they are going into the divine phase. When these rishis, their death has happened, so people or the followers of these rishis, they cremated the rishis in the stupa formation. So rishis were cremated in the stupa formation, and this is how the beginning of the stupa started. So this is what is the Vedic origin of the, and this exact question, you can see that my videos are leaked from 2013. देख सकते हो, सब जगह पड़ा हुआ है, सबने देखा है, इस पूरे मार्केट में एक आदमी ने देखा है, ठीक है, और ये क्वेश्चन इस ईयर पेपर में था, and this part is also there, ठीक है. So right from 2013, I included this part, and I think in 2016 paper, the mains question was on the stupa, bang on from the notes that what I have taught. And this year also, exact same question, the origin of, have you seen the prelims paper? So this question was asked then. So now, understand, so this is the Vedic origin. And after it, what happened? So initially, the small stupas were created on the bodies of the rishis. Later on, Buddha, who also belonged to the same society, the Vedic Sanatan Dharma, he was a Kshatriya then, and he belonged to the same society. When his death happened, so his followers created, he also meditated for 49 days in open under a peepal tree, and then he attained enlightenment, that is nirvana. When his death happened, so his followers created a bigger stupa on his body. So this is how this tradition started. Now, एक और चीज है कि question है, this is a question, does this tradition has a relevance in the present day Hindu society? है कि नहीं? ये चलता है कि नहीं? Is it continuing in the Hindu society? It is continuing. Only just you don't know. Right? So this stupa formation, बस नाम बदल गया है, ठीक है? I don't know that how many of you are from the rural areas, but then those who are from the rural areas, they must have witnessed it. Those who are from the urban areas, because if some casualty happens in the family or the friends and family, so generally people go to the ghats where the electric things are there. So there you will not find. But in the villages of the India, you will go, you just see the last rite rituals. The very first day, body is cremated. Second day, एक process होता है, process को हिंदी में बोलते हैं मिट्टी लगाना, ठीक है? Have you heard about it? Have you seen that मिट्टी लगाना किस process में होता है? It is a stupa formation only on the body. Though it is in a cylindrical form, क्योंकि बॉडी की जितनी लंबाई है उस हिसाब से लगती है. So the second day process is the मिट्टी लगाना, and then also generally particularly in the northern and the eastern part of India, one tulsi plant is also planted, and then the mitti lagana process happens. So it is continuing from the Vedic period. Only thing that we have not made it so big. Then in Buddhism, they started to make a bigger stupas. So this is still continuous. There was a question, I remember in 2014 mains paper, that Indian civilization is noted for the unbreakable tradition. So this is one of unbreakable tradition. that continuing tradition of the Indian civilization. Right from the ancient times, there are few practices which we still continue. There is not much change in it. But when it comes to the other civilizations of the world, they started with something, but they don't practice the same stuff at this point of time. So now I hope you understood. So this is how the origin started. Now, how come stupa is related to the Asoka? So Buddha ke time se hi stupa ban raha hai. When he died, and then it was all created at that time only. Now when Asoka has accepted Buddhism, so he decided that he will create bigger stupas on the remains of the Buddha. So do you have any idea that where the death of the Buddha happened? Which place? No one? Yeah? Kushinagar. You are from that place? Any close? Chalo, anyways, वो question नहीं पूछूंगा. It is Kushinagar, ठीक है? And Kushinagar is the border district of the, that is the last district I was talking about, कि Kushinagar से अगर जो बेतिया की तरफ जाते हो, कोई बिहार से है इस क्लास में? How many of people? ठीक है? गुड नंबर. तो इनको समझ में आ जाएगा कि कुशीनगर से अगर जो बेतिया की तरफ जाते हो, पश्चिमी चंपारण, so then you find Lorya Nandagढ़, and majority of the Buddhist things are to be found over here. So in Kushinagar he died, and after his death there was a stupa. There is a stupa in Kushinagar which is known as Ramabhara Stupa. Okay? That was the original place where he was cremated, and death of the Buddha happened. कभी जाना कुशीनगर तो देखना, Mahaparinirvan temple. So the death of Buddha happened at Mahaparinirvan, and he was cremated at the Ramabhar. So what Asoka did, that he divided the remains of the Buddha into 9 parts. Then, so he divided the remains of the Buddha into 9 parts, and then on these 9 parts, the stupas were created. So 9 early stupas were created at different places. So this is how Asoka embarked on the journey of the creating stupa. So can you predict that which all places he must have created the stupa on these remains of the Buddha? Sanchi, as you said, and then which one? Sarnath. And which one? Kesariya stupa. Vaishali. ठीक है. हाँ, place में पूछ रहा था. That is right. Then what else? चलो, I'll tell you. One of the interesting fact over here, अब ध्यान से समझना, the important places associated, one of the most important places associated with the life of the Buddha is Lumbini, ठीक है, then Sarnath, then Gaya also, Bodh Gaya also, ठीक है, and Kushinagar. So Kushinagar तो है इस लिस्ट में, क्योंकि डेथ हुआ कुशीनगर में, and then he was cremated in Kushinagar. Kushinagar is there in this list, but rest of the 3 places are not there in this list. Okay? So initially Asoka, the early 9 stupas were not created at the most important places associated with the life of the Buddha, but they were created at those places where people need to be made aware about the Buddhism. So those places I will write on the board. Then it included Kushinagar, and then apart from the Kushinagar, Pava, Pipalvina, okay? So Pava, Pipalvina, then Kapilavastu, which was the kingdom or which was the principality of the Buddha. Then apart from it, Ramagram, ठीक है, with Deep. So Ramagram, Vethadeep, Alakappa, ठीक है, Alakappa, Vaisali and Rajgir. So these were the places where the early stupas were created. Baad mein, after it, then he started creating the bigger stupas on these all places, which included Sanchi, which included Lumbini, Bodh Gaya, and all the other places. But initial 9 stupas were not created in the Sanchi, Lumbini, Bodh Gaya, or even in the Sarnath. So mention a little bit. So ये लिख लिया ना, stupa is a Sanskrit word. उसको लिख लो. Stupa is a Sanskrit word which means heap of sand. Which means heap of sand. Done? Then mention heap of sand. Full stop. Then you write its origin can be traced to the Vedic age. Its origin can be traced to the Vedic age, where the divine rishis of that time, were cremated divine rishis of that time were cremated, C-R-E-M-A-T-E-D, were cremated in stupa formations. In stupa formations. Then mention after it, in stupa formations, full stop. Buddha also belonged to same society. Buddha also belonged to same society. Same society. And when his death happened, his followers also created stupa. His followers also created stupa on his cremated body. On his cremated body. Done. अब पैराग्राफ चेंज करो और पैराग्राफ चेंज करके लिखो मेंशन later Ashoka decided to create 9 early stupa. 9 early stupa, इसको अंडरलाइन कर लेना, ठीक है? 9 early stupa on the remains of Buddha. 9 early stupas on the remains of Buddha at following places. Then, so now you mention these following places. So start karo. Alakapp, Ramagram, Vetdeep, Vaishali, Rajgir, Pipalveena, Pava, Kapilvastu, and Kushinagar. So these were the early 9 stupas. Kapilvastu and Kushinagar. Done? So now listen. So after this 9 stupas he has created, he felt good about it after creating it, and then Ashoka initiated a policy. The name of the policy was Calm and Glad policy. So Ashoka initiated a policy. अब कुछ पाली में अलग नाम है, but then here it is called as the Calm and Glad policy. So as per the Calm and Glad policy of the Ashoka, he created, as per the legend say, reality में तो नहीं है इतना, but then it is written that he created 84,000 stupas, ठीक है? Which is little unrealistic that it must have been done during his lifetime. But there is one thing for sure, that he created a very large number of stupas in different parts of the country. Then, so what is this Calm and Glad policy? So with the stupa, he wanted to make the heart of the people calm and glad. And how heart of the people will become calm and glad? Because stupa is the symbol of the life of the Buddha, and then when the people see it, so they will try to emulate the life of the Buddha in their own life. Then, so he went on to create some of the big stupas of that time, and one of the biggest stupa was created at Sanchi. Okay? So there is a small story over here that why he created Sanchi. When the initial 9 stupas were created, the favorite wife of the Ashoka, Sri Devi, she was very annoyed with it that when these all stupas are getting created, why not one is created at her father's place? She belonged to Sanchi. So then Ashoka assured her that I'll be creating the biggest stupa at your father's place. And that's how he created the biggest stupa at Sanchi. But Sanchi stupa has gone through many transformations. Then, and this transformation happened in the post-Maurya age also, and then in the other ages also. And it is one of the surviving example of the stupa in India. Best surviving example of the early stupas in India. So mention, you write. After the construction of early stupas, Asoka initiated calm and glad policy. Asoka initiated calm and glad policy whereby it is said that he constructed 84,000 stupas. He constructed 84,000 stupas. Done? 84,000 stupas. Then uske baad likho, after that you mention, through this policy, he wanted to make the heart of the people, calm and glad, by emulating the life of Buddha. Then after it, we are going into the structure. Okay? So pehle I will create a diagram and then I will go into the explanation. So to save time, साथ में diagram बना लो. Okay? So as I instructed to you कि एक portion, one part of it 60 to 65% for the bigger stupa and the rest of the portion will be creating small images. Okay? So let's start with, and just give me 1 minute. The color is not visible actually. So I'll create just give me 1 minute. It's fine. So this part you mention as Medhi. This part is called as Anda. Yeah, it's funny, but then and the boundary wall of the stupa is called as Vedika. Vedika, in brackets you can write, it is the boundary wall. Then these 4 rectangles which I have created, so these are known as Torana. And what is Toran? Gateways. Okay? So Toranas are the gateways. Then this part is called as Harmika. This is Yasti. And the uppermost part is Chhatri. No, this part is Chhatri. Then, and this one is ambulatory passageway, which is known as Pradakshina Path. If you want, you can write ambulatory passageway. Some of you are not creating. And one last part. So this is remains of the Buddha or relics of the Buddha. So this is relics of Buddha. Which one? Ambulatory passageway. लिख लो, समझाने का काम मैं बाद में करूँगा. Done? How slow. Some of you. And in fact, there are small images also. पहले इसको complete करो, then I'll create. In fact, this Kshatri part is to be elaborated. So these are horizontal disc and 3 in number, but as you can see, कि size सबका एक जैसा नहीं है. That the top one is the little smaller and the lower one is the largest. ठीक है? So done. So एक बार आप ध्यान से समझो that what all things are there. I'm not removing this particular image, but I'm going ahead with the explanation. So first of all, as you can see that what all structures are there. बाहर की तरफ एक boundary wall है. Then this boundary wall is called as the Vedika. And then there are 4 gateways, and these 4 gateways are known as Torana. Then, so Toran. Then this is Parikrama Path. Hindi में बोले तो Parikrama Path. And it is very clear from the Hindi word Parikrama means that you will be doing the circumambulation of the deity. Then, so ambulatory passageway. Then comes this that rectangular structure, it seems to be the squarish or rectangular, but then ये भी circular ही होता है, ठीक है? So Medhi is a that lower part of the stupa, and these are the relics of the Buddha, meaning that those remains of the Buddha which are kept, and Medhi is a closed structure. ध्यान से समझना कि जब कभी भी मेधी बन गया, you cannot enter inside the Medhi. It's a closed structure. So one cannot enter inside the Medhi. Once it is done, it is done. Then the topmost part of the Medhi is Anda, which is an oval structure. Okay? Or semicircular structure or the dome structure. So this is called as Anda. Then this part is Harmika. This is a horizontal platform, okay, which is called as Harmika. I'll tell you the importance of this place. Then there is this spire which is known as Yasti, and there are these three horizontal discs which are known as Chhatri. Ab isme, let's start with the explanation of the Chhatri. So Chhatris are three, and they are indicative of the three Ratna of Buddhism, okay? Or three jewels of the Buddhism. And what are the three jewels of the Buddhism? Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, okay? So Buddha, the topmost part is indicative of the Buddha, middle part is indicative of the Dhamma, and the last part is Sangha. So we'll explain, but let's start the very first question. So there are four gateways in the stupa, okay? Four gateways in the stupa. They are indicative of many things. So what they indicate? So they indicate not only the four directions, अब इसको ध्यान से समझना, not only the four directions but also four important life events of Buddha. So four important life events of Buddha. What are these four important life events? The very first one is obviously his birth. Okay? So birth is the first event. Second is when he has got nirvana. So he has achieved enlightenment. The third is that when he is giving his first speech, okay, or first ceremony, Dharma Chakra Parivartan at Sarnath. And fourth is the death, which is at Kushinagar. So these all Mahaparinirvana is called as death. So these gateways are indicative of the four important life events of Buddha. Now I will erase some of the images. It is important to erase, okay? बिना उसके काम नहीं होगा. So let me do this exercise. So I need to explain these gateways further. ये लिख लिया है ना, all of you? So now understand these gateways. अब एक, I'll create a separate image. I'll come back to this one. So separate image is basically if you go with the map of India. So not the entire part is required, but a little bit of part. Then. So we don't need to complete this particular part. So now understand. So four important life events of Buddha, I'll write here. Birth. So the birthplace of Buddha is Lumbini. Then the second important event was his nirvana. And where he achieved nirvana? Bodh Gaya. Okay? So he achieved nirvana at Bodh Gaya. Then comes Dharma Chakra Parivartan. I am writing DCP, बाद में elaborate कर लेंगे, and it is happening at Sarnath. And the last one is his death, and death in Buddhism is called as Mahaparinirvana. So this is happening at Kushinagar. Okay? So this is happening at Kushinagar, and let's move to the next part. So let's locate these places. Lumbini. Where is Lumbini? In Nepal. Okay? So Lumbini is in Nepal. Then where is Bodh Gaya? Bihar. Very closer to जहाँ से झारखंड start होना है उसके थोड़ा सा पहले. ठीक है? So let's take it over here. Sarnath, Varanasi. Which direction? This direction. ठीक है? And then comes Kushinagar. So Kushinagar comes around here. Then, so now when we look at it, that these all four places. एक बार मुझे नेमिंग भी कर लेने दो. That this is Lumbini, this I am writing as Bodh Gaya, this as Sarnath, and this as Kushinagar. Then, so birth at Lumbini. The movement of Buddha to achieve Nirvana. Which direction he is going? South. Good. So Bodh Gaya, I will denote it south. Then from Bodh Gaya to Sarnath to give his speech, where he is going? west. ठीक है, so Sarnath would be west. Then from Sarnath to this area, ठीक है, so Sarnath to Kushinagar, which direction he is moving? North. ठीक है, so Kushinagar would be denoted north, and automatically Lumbini becomes east. So now looking at the movement of the Buddha, his life will move in stupa accordingly. ठीक है, so his life will move in the stupa accordingly. This is east. ठीक है, east is what? Birth. Place is Lumbini. Now you have become smart. Now this one, south. ठीक है, south is what? Bodh Gaya. And place is Bodh Gaya, and the event is Nirvana. So Nirvana. Then comes west one. ठीक है, so west one is Sarnath, and Dharma Chakra Parivartan I am writing full. So Dharma Chakra Parivartan at Sarnath. ठीक है, so this is there. And the last one, the topmost, so let's write over here. So topmost is Mahaparinirvana at Kushinagar, and the direction is north. So in Hinduism also, which is the direction of the death? South. North is direction of death. Who is Mrityunjay? Lord Shiva. Where he is here? Kailash, north. कहाँ हो? कौन सा mythology पढ़ के आए हो तुम लोग? So in Buddhism also, in all the Oriental religions, north is the direction of the death. ठीक है? So as it was for Buddha. When body is cremated, तो body south में सिर रखते हैं, north में रखते हैं. Yes, very good, exactly. तो north में, the idea is in the mythology that the प्राण जो होते हैं, हिंदी में बोलते हैं, प्राण बाहर इधर से निकलते हैं. ठीक है, सो प्राण गोज टू द ओरिजिनल क्रिएटर, एंड पैर मीन्स दैट कि लाइफ का पैदा होना. तो पैदा होके वापस साउथ आते हो, मरते हो तो नॉर्थ जाते हो. ठीक है, सो नहीं, ये साउथ और नॉर्थ इंडिया का डिफरेंस नहीं है. सो नाउ लेट्स कम टू दिस पार्ट. सो नाउ आई होप यू हैव अंडरस्टूड दिस पार्ट. ठीक है, विद द इमेज इटसेल्फ. दैट्स व्हाट आई सेड कि इसमें थोड़ा अटेंटिव रहोगे तो पूरी लाइफ टाइम के लिए याद हो जाएगा. ठीक है, ओनली थिंग इज दैट यू नीड टू रिवाइज इट बाय टुडे इटसेल्फ. अगर जो आज छोड़ दिया तो एक हफ्ते बाद एवरीथिंग इज वॉश्ड आउट फ्रॉम योर माइंड. सो these four directions, they indicate the four important life events of the Buddha. East gateway represents the birth of Buddha at Lumbini, and then south represents his nirvana at Bodh Gaya. West, Dharmachakra Parivartan at Sarnath, and north, his death or Mahaparinirvana at Kushinagar. Right? So this is the very first part. Now let's come to this part. अब अंदर चलते हैं. ठीक है? So now we entered into the stupa. There is this fixed structure, and there is this parikrama path or pradakshina path. So since we maintained that once the relics of the Buddha are kept and it is covered with the medhi, so you cannot enter inside the medhi. So for religious purpose, for your devotion, prayer and everything, you will be, as a devotee, you will be accessing stupa from the pradakshina path. So if you go to any Buddhist place, any stupa, so you'll see that generally people those who are Buddhists, so they will be taking the candles and different things on the pradakshina path also itself, and they will be taking the parikrama of it. So that is what is the religious process in Buddhism also, and in Hinduism also you do. Generally you go to temple, you also do the parikrama. Okay? So here also they do the parikrama. Then let's come to this part, anda and harmika. So anda is the oval part. It is indicative of the that everything in the life comes in the circular way. But the most important, I'll create one image. Which color we have used? So listen. So if we draw an imaginary line from harmika, it comes down to the relics. So this column which is emerging from the relics to harmika, it is considered as the most sacred space in stupa. Most sacred space in stupa. So harmika is indicative of the most sacred space of the stupa. ठीक है? Then उसके बाद after harmika, this yasti which is there. So yasti is also symbolic, and yasti is indicative of the axis of earth. Then and then the three chhatris. So इसके लिए एक अलग से I am creating one image and write, यहाँ पे तो जगह है नहीं, this I hope you have noted down. ठीक है, तो एक अलग से image बना दे दो मुझे. And the topmost, so it is indicative of the Buddha. So three ratna of Buddhism, and the first one is Buddha, second one is Dhamma, and third one, which will be the biggest, so Sangha. Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. Then the meaning of the word Buddha is awakened one. Awakened one. Dhamma, doctrine of Buddhism. Doctrine of Buddhism. And Sangha is the monastic order of Buddhism. Monastic order of Buddhism. So now listen. So Buddha, the first Kshatri at the top. Buddha, one person. Okay? One single guy. Founder of the Buddhism. So he will be on the top. Then the words of the Buddha, his sayings, his preachings are the content of the Dhamma. Okay? His preaching is the Dhamma. His doctrine is the Dhamma. So one Buddha, his many doctrines, second place. And then what is monastic order of the Buddhism? They are the priestly class of the Buddhism, what you call monks. Okay? So monks of Buddhism, they come under the Sangha. Okay? So here we have written monastic order, which means the priestly order of the Buddhism or monk order of the Buddhism. Then, and so one Buddha, his doctrines and large number of the followers. So that's why the lower Kshatri is biggest, indicative of large number. But despite they are in large number, they cannot be at the top, because at the top is the Buddha. So this is what is the three Ratna of the Buddhism. And this Yasti that we have created, it is indicative of the axis of the earth. Okay? So it is axis of the earth. So these all are the explanation and symbolic representation of the things in the stupa. But there is one more part to it. I will not explain now. Pehle itna likho. Okay? So go on a different page, and writing part do on the different page. Okay? So mention, start with. So start with mention. Generally, stupas have an enclosure wall. Stupas have an enclosure wall known as Vedika. Stupas have an enclosure. Enclosure starts with E, not I. Enclosure wall known as Vedika. Known as Vedika. Full stop. Vedika, a full stop के बाद लिखो, Vedika is interpursed. Vedika is intervened ही लिख लो. So Vedika is intervened by 4 gateways. Vedika is intervened by 4 gateways known as Toran. Known as Toran. Then mention. These 4 Torans, Toran depict 4 important life events of Buddha. Depict 4 important life events of Buddha. अब numbering करके you write. Then, so mention East Toran. Number 1. East Toran indicates his birth. East Toran indicates his birth at Lumbini. His birth at Lumbini. Number 2. South Toran indicates his nirvana. South Toran indicates his nirvana or enlightenment. Nirvana or enlightenment at Bodh Gaya. At Bodh Gaya. West Toran indicates Dharma Chakra Parivartan. Dharma Chakra Parivartan at Sarnath. Dharma Chakra Parivartan at Sarnath. And the last one you write, number 4. North Toran indicates Mahaparinirvan. So you can see Mahaparinirvan. So Nirvan means enlightenment, but Mahaparinirvan is death. Okay? So you can write in brackets death at Kushinagar. Death at Kushinagar. But now there is one more part I need to add in this one. ठीक है? अब एक बात ध्यान से समझना. When we look at these gateways, so not only these are indicatives of these all things, but on the gateways you'll also find Jatak Katha engraved on it. So for the very first time, are you listening this Jatak Katha या कहीं सुना है? In ancient कम से कम तो सुना होगा. Then, so Jatak Katha, little bit you know. So Jatak Kathas were engraved. What are the Jatak Katha? N number of the time we'll be discussing in our topic. So language and literature maybe हम वापस से will be discussing about the Jatak Katha. But here you understand. Jatak Katha are the stories of the previous birth of the Buddha. Okay? So previous birth of the Buddha, in English language we call it folk narratives. So folk narratives about the previous birth of the Buddha and the making of the Buddha. So these stories are also engraved. Engraved का मतलब होता है sculpture form में. So they are in the sculpture form on the gateways itself. So let's look at it. ठीक है? समझने से ज़्यादा, image से ज़्यादा समझ में आएगा. So, oh sorry, I went to note only. Jatak So as you can see that this is the Sanchi Stupa's gateways. ये वाला image देख लो, इसमें clearly visible है, ठीक है? So as you can see that this is the gate, this is the Toran, and on Toran itself these all stories are engraved. Different stories are there. So these are the Jatak Kathas about the life of the Buddha, previous birth of the Buddha, and lower part also you will see the same. You getting it? Then so engraved meaning sculptural panel form. So mention you write what you have written. The last thing. So on Toranas, Jatak Kathas, on Toranas, Jatak Kathas were also engraved. On Toranas, Jatak Kathas were also engraved. Engraved, E-N-G-R-A-V-E-D. Full stop, then mention. These are folk narratives. These are folk narratives about the previous life of Buddha. previous life of Buddha. Folk narratives about previous life of Buddha. Then, now you change paragraph and then we are moving inside the stupa. So mention that Medhi is a closed structure. Medhi is a closed structure which embodies Medhi is a closed structure which embodies the relics of Buddha, which embodies the relics of Buddha, relics of Buddha, full stop. Devotees access stupa, devotees access stupa, access spelling you must be very careful. हाँ ए वाला होना चाहिए, ई वाला नहीं होता है कभी कभी इन प्रोनाउंसिएशन ऑल्सो आई गिव अ रॉन्ग इंडिकेशन, ठीक है, और मे बी हमसे भी गलत होती है. आई हैव अ प्रॉब्लम इन प्रोनाउंसिएशन ऑफ द वर्ड, माई टंग ट्विस्ट विद दिस वर्ड, सो समटाइम्स it may give you a wrong indication, ठीक है. So now mention further. Stupa, what you have written? Devotees access stupa from Pradakshina Path. From Pradakshina Path, which is a circular pathway. From Pradakshina Path, which is a circular pathway. Then, circular pathway. Full stop. Harmika indicates the most sacred space. Harmika indicates the most sacred space in the stupa structure. Harmika indicates the most sacred structure, space in stupa structure. Then mention in the stupa structure, full stop. After it in the stupa structure. Then Yasti represents axis of the earth. Yasti, Y-A-S-T-I. Yasti represents axis of the earth. And three horizontal discs. And the three horizontal discs represent three jewels of Buddhism, represent three jewels of disc, D-I-S-C. Disc represent three jewels of Buddhism, that is Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. Then, so now as I said that some more parts are remaining, just wait for it. Then, so first of all, this overall, when we are looking at the structure, and we are calling Yasti as a kind of a axis of the earth. So Buddhists believe that stupa is microcosm of the universe. Okay? Microcosm, you understand? Small representation of the universe. In fact, it is very much coinciding with the Oriental philosophies. Then I'll tell you one such incident related to the Hindu mythology, that once upon a time, Lord Ganesh was asked that he was very naughty child and then he was doing the naughty stuff. So then he was reprimanded by one of the rishi, and then he was given a punishment that he will have to make a parikrama of the entire universe. 3 times, not just 1 time. So what he did, that he made a 3 parikrama of the mother and father, okay, at Kailas Parvat, and then he said that this is my universe, I am complete. Then, so this parikrama concept is very much there in all the Oriental religions, okay? Buddhism may be, Hinduism may be, okay? And moreover, if the 2 gods, that particularly the mother and father indicative of the universe, here also they in Buddhism, they considered Buddha as the microcosm of the universe itself. And now the second part, you understand. So second part is basically, we'll have to go back to the stupa structure itself. So this entire stupa structure, this is regarded as the representation of the body of the Buddha. So this is the last image that we'll be drawing. So this entire structure is regarded as the body of the Buddha. Then And how come? So now understand. So this Medhi part is considered to be the legs of the Buddha. It is compared with the legs of the Buddha. Legs of the Buddha. Then this much part is considered to be so middle body of the Buddha. And the Harmika, Yasti and Chhatri are the head of the Buddha. So this is what is the final comparison, not just comparison, the concept in the Buddhism. So just mention, अगर जो image नहीं भी बनाना है तो लिख सकते हो, ठीक है? So just write, mention. पैराग्राफ चेंज करके लिखो, बना लेना, ठीक है? But first you write. Overall, stupa is considered as microcosm of Buddhism. Microcosm of the universe, not Buddhism. Microcosm of the universe and representation of Buddha himself. And representation of Buddha himself. Buddha himself. Then mention further. Medhi represents meditating leg of Buddha. Medhi represents meditating leg of Buddha. Anda represents middle body of Buddha. Anda represents middle body of Buddha. And third, Harmika, Yasti, Chhatri. Harmika, Yasti, Chhatri represents head of Buddha. Represents head of Buddha. Then, so this is what is about the final words about the stupa structure. There are so many concepts that we have discussed today, and I would request rest of the part एक दो दिन मतलब बाद में भी रिवीजन करते हो तो चल जाता है, but इसमें नहीं चलेगा. So when you go home, just try to revise it 2-3 times, and moreover that it's not with the factual orientation but understanding that the way we have covered कि क्यों कोई भी चीज किसी पर्टिकुलर जगह पे है, ठीक है? So do that exercise, and so you say that if you want break, so I'll give you break. Otherwise, break चाहिए? चलो, ठीक है. Generally, see that whenever I have told you that I'll not be giving break, so then I'll leave you little early. I'll be giving break, so then full time. चलो ले लो, आज पहली बार break ले रहे हो, ठीक है? But then match days are also not there. Done? So I'm cleaning this stuff. I hope all of you are done with this. So this is what is about the stupa. But now understand that stupa topic does not complete in the Maurya age. उसमें और भी developments होंगे, ठीक है? And these developments will be reading in the next age, that is post-Maurya age. That what are further developments in the stupa. So for the time being in Maurya age, these were the developments. Let's talk about the next two architectural or artifacts of the period. So mention what is remaining, sculpture and pottery. So first you write sculpture of the Mauryan age. So sculpture. So Mauryan sculpture. So now understand that when it comes to the Mauryan sculpture, I hope you know what is sculpture, a 3D piece of art. Okay? So the general belief that they must be creating the sculptures of the Buddha. Okay? They must be creating the sculptures of Buddha, and since they patronized the Jainism, so maybe the Tirthankars, Vardhaman Mahavir, Parshvanath, okay, Rishabdev, none of these was happening. They did not created image of Buddha. They did not created image of any Jainism figure. but what they were creating. So when they are not creating the images of these deities who were popular at this point of time, whose image is getting created? Yaksha and Yakshini. So Yaksha and Yakshini. Now, this is the first time that we are discussing this kind of thing, Yaksha and Yakshini. So who is Yaksha, who is Yakshini? In general terms, Yaksha and Yakshini are called as folk god and folk goddess. Then, so folk god and folk goddess. Now, it needs further explanation. In fact, Yaksha and Yakshini is a common terminology which is used, and in fact, a Yaksha and Yakshini exist in almost all the villages of India. Okay? Almost all the places in India, with the different names. It's a concept of the folk god and goddess. So, for example, no matter whichever part of the country you belong to, but then in your village, or in your semi-urban town or town also, there are some specific deities, अलग-अलग नाम से, ठीक है? तो हर गांव के एक अलग-अलग देवता हैं. In fact, I hope most of you have seen the movie Kantara. Then Bhuta Kola. Then what is that? It's a form of a yaksh only. Okay? So it's a form of a yaksh only. That Bhuta Kola. It's a Gram Devata. Then Grama Devi and Grama Devata. This is what is the concept. Everywhere it is there. So basically, yaksh is considered as the god of the wilderness, meaning the one who is associated with the preservation of the nature and the preservation of the equilibrium in the nature. So, for example, that mention of the Yaksha is also there in the Mahabharata. Have you seen that? In Mahabharata, the questions which were asked to Yudhishthir, Yaksha Prashna. देखा नहीं है महाभारत, ठीक है? You have seen it. So Yaksha Prashna, you remember the episode in which Draupadi is asking that she wants water, and that Pandava brothers, one by one, they are going to fetch a water from the lake. They are stopped by the Yaksha to answer some of the questions, but they are not stopping. They are drinking the water and they are dying. Finally, Yudhishthir comes and then he gives the answer. So Yaksha is generally associated with the preservation of the nature, who is mentioned in the Mahabharata also. What is Yakshini? So Yakshini is considered as the goddess of the fertility. So each and every fertility, चाहे वो nature की fertility हो या human fertility हो. So she is associated with the fertility and the property, the wealth. Then, so this is normal concept, and each and every village has a folk god and goddess concept. In fact, later on when we are going in the episode of the Tamil literature, so there we talk about one of the Tamil epic, Silapatikaram. I hope that in your ancient classes it must have been mentioned. Then, so Silapatikaram also mentioned the worship of Yaksha and Yakshini. So ये तो हो गया tradition of India. Now, how it is there in this period? So in this period, when we look at all the religions of India, Buddhism also has a Yaksha and Yakshini concept. Jainism also had Yaksha and Yakshini concept, so as the Hinduism, Yaksha and Yakshini concept. So let's talk about the Hinduism. In Hinduism at this point of time, Yakshini was highly revered, and there was a very popular puja in the society in the Mauryan times, Sapta Matrika Puja, in which 7 Yakshinis were worshipped. Then apart from it, Yaksha was also a divine figure. He is mentioned in the religious literature of the Mahabharata. Then when it comes to Jainism, so in Jainism, later on in Jainism topic, we'll be reading that Jainism foundation was possible because of the 24 personalities, and these personalities are called as Tirthankars. So there is a concept of 24 Tirthankar in Jainism, but equally opposite 24 Yakshinis are also there in the Jainism. Okay? So Yakshini figure is worshipped in the Jainism. When it comes to Buddhism, so both of them are considered as highly auspicious, Yaksha and Yakshini. Very often their images you can find on the toranas of the gate, toranas of the stupas. So Yakshini is considered as very auspicious, and Yaksha is considered as the person who gives power and strength to the stupa structure. Okay? So mention in the Maurya age, sculptures of Yaksha and Yakshini, was created. Yaksha and Yakshini was created. They were folk god and goddess. They were folk god and goddess. Full stop. Then mention. often these figures were represented in Buddhist stupas, and they were highly revered. Buddhist stupas, and they were highly revered. REVERED. Highly revered in Hinduism and Jainism. Highly revered in Hinduism and Jainism. For example, Yaksh is mentioned in Mahabharata. For example, Yaksh is mentioned in Mahabharata as the demigod, associated with demi, not semi, DEMI. Demigod associated with preservation of the order of the nature. Preservation of the order of the nature. Order of the nature. So now, since you have written this word demigod, meaning batao. What does it mean? What is demigod? Yes. Kind of, okay? So demigod means that the god who has the character of becoming that he is a good, but then if something happens to the disturbance of the preservation of the nature, he can become a devil also. So the best example is the Kantara itself. You take the Bhuta Kola itself. So have you seen the movie? Many of you, if you have not seen, so you must see this movie. It's a very interesting one. So, and it's all about the practices of that area. So you see that when something bad happens to it, so they will become the devil. Then the person will not survive. And if the preservation of nature is there, so then they will survive. So this is what is there. That this is an Indian concept of preserving the nature and also balancing the elements of the nature. That it is not only the men's world, but it is also the world which is a shared world with all the animals and all the other living things. Then, so demigod means this, that he has a devil character also and he has a good character also. Similarly, even the Yakshini is also regarded as the same. Okay? That she can become the devil also and she can become the good also. So she is demigoddess. So mention what you have written, preservation of the nature. Then Yakshini is mentioned as demigoddess in Hinduism. Demigoddess in Hinduism, associated with fertility, and acquisition of wealth. Then acquisition of wealth. Now, have you heard about the concept of the Kuber also? So somehow Kuber is a male counterpart, but the concept emerges from the wealth only, okay? And Yakshini only. So I would better say one more movie, if you have seen, so you can correlate it. That is Tumbad. Have you seen that? Hastar. So that is also related to the wealth only, but then it has a devil character. So you can become rich also, but then there is a risk also. And that's a reality, that becoming rich has a risk also. So now, so you understood this part, then mention in Jainism. Ab ye Hinduism ka part ho gaya, and then you change paragraph and write, in Jainism, there existed the concept of 24 Yakshinis. There existed the concept of 24 Yakshinis who were highly revered. Then फिर से paragraph change करो and then you mention, in Buddhism, Yakshini figures are considered as highly auspicious. Highly auspicious. Similarly, Yaksh. Similarly, Yaksh is regarded as deity of power and strength. Power and strength. Deity of power and strength. Then, so some of the examples we need to write which are surviving and kept in the museums, ठीक है? तो स्तूपा पे तो वैसे भी है, but there are some examples or some figures, sculptures which are kept in the museum. So the most famous Yakshini image is from the Bihar, the Didarganj Yakshini of the Bihar. It is in the Patna Museum. And then another image is in the Gwalior Museum, that is the Yaksh of the Parkham. ठीक है? And the stupa Yakshini which is very popular is the Sanchi Stupa Yakshini, whose name is Salbhanjika Yakshini. So examples you write. Examples में mention करो. Didarganj Yakshini. So this one is in Patna Museum. Then Yaksh of Parkham. And this is in Madhya Pradesh. Originally, Parkham was near to Mathura. And then Salbhanjika Yakshini. Salbhanjika Yakshini of Sanchi Stupa. Salbhanjika Yakshini of Sanchi Stupa. See, कोई क्लैरिटी नहीं है. सी अगर जो बुद्धिज्म पे स्तूपा पे बना हुआ होगा तो देन वी कैन से इट द बुद्धिज्म, बट अदरवाइज इफ इट इज सेपरेटली क्रिएटेड सो द क्लैरिटी इज नॉट वेरी मच मेंटेन्ड. बट दैट एरिया वाज वेरी पॉपुलरली एसोसिएटेड विद द बुद्धिज्म, द एरिया ऑफ द परखम. सो कोई ऐसा इसमें स्पेसिफिक नहीं है. I understood your question that if Yakshini is there, stupa pe hai, तो it is associated with the Buddhism, but then otherwise also if they are created separately, so Buddhist also consider it as a Yaksh, Hindu also consider it as a Yaksh, ठीक है? तो सब worship करते थे. Now, so इसका एक meaning लिखना है that this Salbhanjika Yakshini, so why this name is given to this Yakshini? Because in this image, the Yakshini is holding a branch of the salt tree, and this branch of the salt tree is also considered as very highly auspicious. So इसमें brackets में लिखो, you write, in this image, Yakshini is depicted holding branch of a salt tree. Yakshini is depicted holding branch of a salt tree. Branch of a salt tree. SAL. फोड़ने वाला सॉल नहीं लिखना है. Pronunciation is like this only. Then, so now this is about the sculpture in the Buddhism, sculpture in the Maurya period. So now the last topic of the Maurya age is their pottery. And their pottery has a specific name which is known as the Nadan black polished ware. ठीक है? So एक बार लिखो इसको. So Mauryan pottery. So listen. That the characteristic pottery of the Maurya period is known as Nadan black polished ware. So listen. As the name suggests, that nadan, black. So black means that it is in the black color. So it is said that it was the climax of the pottery making. Climax of pottery meaning highest stage of the pottery making. Meaning that previous to the Maurya age, whichever potteries were created, they were not that much refined. So this is the best of the pottery. Then understand. So why such a best category of the pottery was created? There were few minor changes that they have done in the pottery making, and they were able to achieve very good results. So what are those minor changes? Understand. So I hope all of us know that how the pottery is created. On a wheel, okay? On the middle, in the middle part of the wheel, you keep a lump of the clay, and then with one hand they rotate it, and this feast goes into the clay, and with this feast, that they are moving the feast, and with it they are creating the pottery. This is how it is made. Now what changes they introduced? So the changes which were introduced at this time is they used very fine particles of the clay. Fine particles of clay. So how we get very fine particle of the clay? By filtering it through a sieve. ठीक है? हिंदी में क्या बोलते हैं? छलनी. ठीक है? So filtering it through a sieve. Why this filtering is important? Because no matter what, from whichever place you collect the clay will have a concord. Then, so concord is coarse grain of the clay. So coarse grain. So whenever we are doing it through the process of the sieving, so concord is removed, okay? And then you have a very fine particle of the clay. Now, अब फायदा क्या है concord remove करने का? So the benefit is that the best potteries are created when it is created on a very fast wheel, okay? Fast running wheel. When it is created on a slow running wheel, pottery would not be good. But on a fast running wheel, pottery would be very even and very good. Now, the problem with the clay with the coarse grain, now understand, the same process. Wheel, lump of clay, you putting your hand, and if you start running the wheel on a high speed, what will happen to your hand? It will be cut with the concord, ठीक है? So पूरा हाथ कट जाएगा, कुछ भी बचेगा नहीं. This happens even if a small piece of thread you keep in the clay, उससे भी पूरा हाथ कट जाएगा. So this is what is the one problem. So that's why they rotate the wheel in a very slow speed when concord is there. Then another thing, when the concord is removed, so they can rotate the wheel on a very fast speed, and on a very fast speed, very even pottery is created. That's one thing. Another thing is that not only the even pottery is created, but it is very easy to polish a pottery which is even, which has no concord. अब पुराने process से Indus Valley के time पे, if the pottery is created and the pottery, if it is has a coarse grain, so वो कहीं ना कहीं पे यहाँ पे दिखेगा, ठीक है? There is an obstruction, there would be no smooth polishing, and when there is no such coarse grain, it can be smoothly polished. So just because of this, a small change, they were able to achieve a very good result. Then, so mention this one. The characteristic pottery of Maurya age, was Nadan black, polished ware. Nadan black, polished ware. Full stop. Polished ware. It was the climax of pottery making. It was the climax of pottery making. Mauryan potteries were highly polished and very even in nature. Very even in nature. Full stop. They used full stop के बाद लिखना, very even in nature, full stop. They used very fine particles of the clay. They used very fine particles of the clay after removing the coarse grains. After removing the coarse grains. Coarse grains. As a result, the smooth pottery was created. The smooth pottery was created and polished to a greater extent. Then, so this is what is all about the Mauryan pottery and these all methods and everything. Okay? So now, so we are done with the Maurya age art and architecture. So just let's look at the only one thing from the post-Maurya age, then I'll give you the leave. Okay? So now start with the post-Maurya art. So mention post-Maurya art. And I hope you know that which period we call as a post-Maurya. Basically starting from the regime of the Sungas, Brihadrath, okay? Last Maurya emperor killed by Pushyamitra Sunga in 185 BCE, and then after the Sunga dynasty on one hand, and there are the foreign invasions in India, so Indo-Greeks, Scythians, Parthians, then and Shakas. So this age, on one hand there are the foreigners, on the other hand there are the Indian dynasties, Sunga, Kanavas and बताओ सातवाहनास. So कब खत्म किया एंशिएंट एंड मेडिवल? बहुत पहले, ओ एंशिएंट टाइम्स में. हाँ तब तो वैसे भी नहीं याद होगा, ठीक है. So now, this age is considered as the post-Maurya age. Now, in post-Maurya age, what are the developments? So major developments, once again, they were there in the Buddhism itself. And एक बार फिर से ध्यान से समझो that when we created those all that classifications, so in the classifications which we have mentioned, first IVC, Indus Valley Civilization. The most important structure in the Indus Valley Civilization was their urban planning itself. Then the focus of the Maurya period, as you have witnessed today, stupa. Okay? Focus of the post-Maurya period is sculpture. Then, so there are 3 styles of sculpture that we are going to study in the next class. Then the focus of the Gupta period, after it, temple architecture. Okay? And focus of the South Indian architecture is also temples. Okay? So this is about the ancient period. And then when we come to the medieval, so in medieval part, obviously the arch and dome is the focus in both the periods. Then Delhi Sultanate also, and in the Mughal age also. So let's talk about this one. So now listen. So when it comes to the post-Maurya age, the cave architecture is further going to build up then, and in fact cave architecture will reach its climax in the Gupta period. So पिछली बार हमने क्या पढ़ा? That some places Asoka and his grandson, they have created the caves. Now there is a further advancement in the cave. So earlier the caves were only associated with the Ajivika, but now in this age we'll see that caves association is increasing with the Buddhism. Okay? So 2 types of the cave on the basis of the purpose emerged, but then I need to mention 3 structures of the cave also. So एक title लिखो, cave architecture. Cave architecture. So listen. So there are 2 things that we are going to study in the cave architecture. First of all, that is the structure, and second is the purpose. So structure and purpose. So there are 3 types of the structures which were created in this period. Now let's understand one by one. So very first type of the structure in the caves was apsidal vault cave with pillars. Apsidal vault cave, साथ साथ में ही लिख लो, ठीक है? Here just the only thing that you need to understand is the image, ठीक है? यहाँ पे कुछ बहुत ऐसा explanation नहीं है. So now just looking at this word, it may seem that very first time that you are listening to this term, apsidal vault cave with pillar, only thing you are understanding is this one, ठीक है? So ये वाला आगे वाला समझना है. And what is this? This is the name of the shape. So what is this shape? Now understand. So generally, the caves were created like this. Just give me 1 minute. There is, yep. So fine. So caves were created like this, and moreover, now this is structure which you are looking at. This structure is called as apsidal vault. The shape is called as apsidal. या तो तुम ही दोनों पढ़ा लो या तो मैं पढ़ा लूँ, ठीक है? आपस में एक दूसरे को समझा लो, ठीक है? बहुत देर से देख रहा हूँ, या तो तुम ही समझा लो या मैं समझा लूँ. मेरे क्लासेस में अटेंशन होना चाहिए, नहीं तो फिर दिन मैं क्लास छोड़ के चला जाऊँगा. और आर्ट एंड कल्चर जिससे मन करे उससे पढ़ लेना, ठीक है? इस पूरे मार्केट में तो बी अटेंटिव इन माई क्लास. सो नाउ अंडरस्टैंड. So here, so this shape is called as apsidal vault cave, and it is very similar to the railway wagon. So railway wagon, you understand कि railway का compartment कैसा होता है? That generally थोड़ा सा straight होता है, but then it goes like this and top पे ऐसे मुड़ गया. So this structure is also called as apsidal vault. So generally the caves in Maharashtra, they were in this shape only. And the second part that you have written with pillars. So with pillars का मतलब है कि इसमें अंदर की तरफ, ठीक है? They have created n number of the pillars. So large number of pillars are there, and so going like this, and moreover from both the sides you will find this kind of pillars. And last में, in the end part of this structure, what is there? That they create a small stupa. So small stupa, and see, whenever a stupa is created inside a closed structure, मतलब घर के अंदर या किसी building के अंदर, whenever a stupa is created, so it is called as votive stupa. So this is called as votive stupa. Then, and these are the pillars. So this is how it looks like. In the next class, I'll be bringing those images. Today I haven't brought, as I said to you, that after 2-3 classes, all the images we'll see in the one go. But some of the images already we have seen online. So these images, once you see, it will be very easier to understand that how it looks like. So this kind of cave is called as the apsidal vault cave with the pillars. And the example of this type of the cave is Ajanta. And so Ajanta cave, Bhaj cave, Karla cave, then, and these all are in Maharashtra. Later on I'll be explaining that why majority of the caves are in Maharashtra. Uska ek alag explanation hai, but right, mention. So इसमें ये structure बना लो and then you write the examples. So structure बना के example लिखो. And this structure you call votive stupa. Which one? Purpose abhi nahi. After completing the structure, we'll talk about the purpose. So examples you write. Chalo, I'm writing over here. You can write the example. Ajanta cave, Bhaj cave, Karla cave, then Kanheri caves. So these are the examples of, and all of them are in Maharashtra. Done? So now, the second category of the cave, meanwhile you're writing the examples, I'm writing the second structure which was prevalent at this time. So number 2 is apsidal vault cave without pillar. Easy hai, ठीक है? So apsidal vault cave without pillar. So meaning the shape is similar, but then it has no pillars. So same structure without pillars. And example you write. So in this you write Thana Nadsur cave. Thana Nadsur cave. And one more you write Pithal Khora cave. Once again, both of them are in Maharashtra only. Pithalkhora cave. नहीं होगा, ठीक है? That's not there. ये भी महाराष्ट्र में. So now let's come to the third cave. So it's easy. The third one, right? So we are writing structure here, and structure के examples हैं. Purpose इसके बाद. So third one you write quadrangular hall, flat roof cave. So quadrangular hall, flat roof cave. So now understand that what does the word quadrangular means? 4 walls. See, in that upsidal vault, you cannot say that it has a 1 wall, 2 wall, because सब fused है एक दूसरे से, ठीक है? But in this room, you can say that it has this many wall, 1, 2, 3, 4, you can count. So quadrangular hall means 4 walls would be there. And flat roof, as it indicates that flat structure. So it is just like any room that you see in the normal life. So it goes like this, that flat roof. So 4 walls and the flat roof. And the example of this type of the cave is just only one cave is the example. And that cave is known as Kondivite cave. So only one example is there, that is Kondivite cave. This is also in Maharashtra. So can you tell me the reason that why majority of the caves are there in the Maharashtra? Stability is the factor. Okay? See, you cannot create caves in Himalayas. That's not stable. Why so? Himalaya is a new mountain, unstable. Every year the formation is happening. So her year, if you see the height, so height of the Himalayas are increasing little bit. Then, so increasing little bit. So it is unstable mountain. Moreover, the Deccan. Okay? When we look at the Deccan, so Deccan is the most stable part of India. And which kind of rocks are there? So more of a basaltic मैं 3 में पूछ रहा हूँ, metamorphic, sedimentary or igneous? Sedimentary. In this part, majority igneous तो पहला stage होता है after the volcanic eruption. Volcanic eruption कभी हुआ है इधर हाल फिलहाल में? No. So igneous is not there. Basaltic is right, that they have a basaltic nature is there, but then they have gone into the sedimentation. So sedimentary rocks are the most that stable rocks. So that's why if the जैसे अभी बहुत अच्छा एग्जाम्पल है उत्तरकाशी टनल, ठीक है? It is a Himalaya and this tunnel has collapsed. But the things in the Maharashtra, they don't collapse easily. Then, because the rock is very stable. So it is easy to create the tunnels in the Deccan part of India. So I'll tell you one example. You all have heard about the name of the Ishridharan. Ishridharan, metro man, okay? In Delhi, that he was the one who brought the metro and he gave the idea. But you don't know about his initial success. He was the first person in India to create the largest number of the tunnels, and that too in the Konkan Railway. So entire coastal line from starting from the Bombay and going till the Kerala. So many such tunnels were created, and these are one of the most stable tunnels. So though the technology has advanced, and that in this age, in last 10-15 years, you have started seeing that tunnels are getting created in the Himalayas. पहले नहीं बनते थे, क्योंकि अब थोड़ी technology advance हो गई है, and the support system has been created. So now the Atal tunnel, which is created in Jammu and Kashmir, and now this Uttarkasi, which is under the construction, but then the collapse has happened because it is a new mountain. So Maharashtra mein the rocks are very stable, and that's why the caves which were created, these are still existing in same form. Okay? So now let's come to the last topic, purpose-wise cave. So you can write a title, purpose-wise cave. So purpose-wise mein, there are 2 types of the caves. there are two type of the caves purpose wise. So number one we call as a chaitya, and number two would be vihara. So it's very simple to understand what is this, and then you'll be able to connect the first part of the structure also. So chaitya where these caves, इसमें साथ में ही लिख लो, these caves were prayer halls. These caves were prayer halls for the monks. Prayer halls for the monks, which included pillars and votive stupa. Pillars and votive stupa. Now you're understanding? So which one would be the chaitya? Apsidal vault with pillar. Okay? So that is chaitya. Then vihara, you write. So viharas you mentioned, they were resting places for the monks. Resting places for the monks then, and in brackets you write particularly in monsoon season. Particularly in monsoon season. Then, so particularly in monsoon season. So resting places, meaning that in the same premise you can have Bihara also. So in Gupta period, when we are going to talk about the Ajanta cave in very elaborate manner, so there we discuss about that there were in Ajanta 29 caves were there, 4 of them were Chaitya and 25 were Viharas. So in the same premise you can get the Chaitya also, you can get the Vihar also. And Vihar is resting places for the monks and Chaitya is their praying places. But then why we have written the particularly in the monsoon season? So when you read Buddhism later on, there was this tradition in the Buddhism that in the monsoon season the monks would not be moving to any place, then they will be staying in the Viharas, and the 4-month season they will be introspecting their own behavior, they will be correcting their behavior, and then after when the monsoon is over, so once again they will start traveling. Then, so this is what was the monsoonal stay part of the Chaityas and the Viharas. So that's about the cave architecture of this period. But then there are 3 styles of sculpture which emerged in the post-Maurya age. And I'm not going to do it today because it's a big topic, and understand that most questions in the mains examination have come from the Gandhara sculpture. Okay? So the 3 styles are Gandhar sculpture, Mathura sculpture and Amravati sculpture. And then we'll talk about a little bit about the stupa also, which the development which happened in the stupa. Okay? So I'm stopping now, and next week we haven't got the schedule. Kal to nahi hai hamari class. So next week, whenever we'll be starting, so we'll be starting with the Mauryan sculpture. And after completion of that part, we'll go into the Gupta age. Okay? Chalo, thank you. And if I become little angry on you, consider it as a that ki tumhare benefit ke liye hai. बाद में बुरा मत मानना. चलो, bye, good night.